Wildlife. This left me wanting to come back to discover some more. As a writer, I know that my chapter of India has only just begun.
Great TYT host to cover that. And then after that, we're not done yet. We're going to be on here for a while. We're going to bring on Nina Turner at Rebel Headquarters to talk about Our Revolution and their stance on Medicare for All. She's, of course, the president of Our Revolution. That's the group that Bernie Sanders started. So it's a huge day ahead for you guys. Unfortunately, also in the news today that I'll be covering the first hour, the Democratic cave-in, why they caved in, we now have quotes from Democrats and Democratic aides, and how Trump has taken it, and it is not going well in that regard, and a disastrous turn of events in something they snuck into the budget bill, and how it creates an unaccountable mercenary army. A great story on that is in great reporting from The Intercept and Ryan Grimm, disastrous in its results. So all that is coming up in the program. Let me unfortunately give you two quick stories here in the first segment about shootings and potential shootings. All right. So we have another shooting at another high school in Kentucky. And here we go. Round and round we go. And it is, unfortunately, having looked at all the news sites, a relatively minor story now. Now we've gotten so used to school shootings and massacres that this becomes a blip. That's the state of what's happening in America. So, CBS News explained that the Kentucky Governor Bevin and other officials have given an update on the high school shooting, which I'm going to share with you guys in a little bit. And there you're seeing, obviously, some footage of what happened inside and outside the high school and the aftermath of the shooting. The gunman, whose name is still unknown, was a student at the school and will face murder and attempted murder charges. 2 have been killed, 19 injured, 14 shot, and it is a terrible day in America when there's no other way to call these shootings other than massacres, and I think that we're not using the right word when we omit that. When a massacre at a school where 14 kids are shot, 14 people, 19 in the hospital overall, and it's a relatively minor story in the news. We've become like those lab animals that have been shot so often and so indiscriminately and randomly that we've appeared to have stopped trying to fix the problem. So if you want to know what's endangering our lives, yes, we should talk about terrorism of all stripes. Yes, we should talk about foreign policy issues. Yes, we should have checks at airports. But my God, you want to see what's killing you and your neighbors? It's the guns next door. So yet another shooting at another school, and yet empty talk, as always, from the politicians. Here is the governor of Kentucky.
Respect the fact that these children belong to this community and to specific families in this community. And this is a wound that is going to take a long time to heal. And for some in this community will never fully heal. That is going to take a process of time and respect. And I'm asking you, please, to respect these families. This is an opportunity for us to show how these situations can be handled. The respect, the love, the sticking to the facts and allowing the process to proceed. I'm just asking you, please, have respect for these families.
What does that mean, respect for the families? Who wouldn't have respect for the families? We all do. We're all incredibly concerned about them. We're concerned about our own families because this shooting is going to happen in a corner near you real soon. It happens every day in America. We have a mass shooting on average about once a day in America. So who isn't concerned? Of course, we're all concerned. So what are you actually saying? What are you actually saying, Governor Bevin? What you're saying is, now this is not the time to talk about guns, okay, so let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not say anything that might actually fix the problem. Remember, I, along with all my Republican buddies, get funded by the NRA. So whatever you do, respect the situation and don't try to solve it. Well, that's how we got here in the first place. You told us not to solve it in the last mass shooting, and the one before that, and the one before that. And after every massacre, you told us, no, you can't do anything about guns. How about we said the simplest regulation in the world, federal background checks? 93% of Americans agree. You know why? Because we're all getting killed out here. And you said no. And you said, and all your donors said no. And your Republican colleagues said no. And now it comes to you, and you with your fake emotions and the pauses. Oh my God, respect the families. Don't hide behind the families. That's what you're doing. You're hiding. Because what you don't want people to say is, Governor Bevin did nothing about the issue of mass shootings and nonstop massacres, and because he got paid by the NRA, and whatever you do on a day like today, don't mention that. Yeah, sorry, we do not agree. We will mention it. The day to fix massacres like this is, yes, the minute it happens, that's when you go to fix it. And you told us to delay and delay and delay. And what has that gotten us? Nothing but more massacres at more schools. Guy didn't go in there with a rope or a knife. They went there in with the one thing we know is went in with a weapon and got to shoot a lot of kids with their weapons. But yet, the Republicans say over and over again, and some Democrats, whatever you do, I have a hobby. My hobby allows other people, including people on a terrorist watch list, including people who have mental issues, even people that have committed violence like domestic violence before, my hobby allows them to murder other people. But I got a hobby. And whatever you do on a day where we have school kids massacred, don't talk about my beloved hobby / my donors, is what that politician is saying. My donors want you to buy more and more weapons so we have more and more shooters. But whatever you do, don't talk about it. We do not agree. I don't want another school shooting. It's way past time that we did something about this. Okay, now, let's go to another story about a potential shooting, because it's nonstop in America. So Donald Trump attacked CNN over and over and over again. And look, you want to talk about bias, perspective in the media. Yes, everybody does it. Nothing wrong with that. That's also part of freedom of speech. But Trump had videos that he tweeted on Twitter earlier, which, in the beginning, when he did the body slamming one, I said CNN was getting bent out of shape. It's just a stupid reference to wrestling. It doesn't actually mean violence. And then there was more attacks against CNN, also running them over. And then they're on the bottom of his shoe. And then he does those stupid fake news awards and says CNN is the worst of the worst. And CNN is ruining this country. To me, the worst of any of that stuff, all of that, one of those by itself doesn't mean anything. But in mass, it is constantly telling his deranged followers, make sure you do something about CNN. CNN is the enemy. So that is why I say the worst of the worst is when he said that these news outlets were the enemy of the people. But that's what fascists say. That's not what an American president says that has ever read the First Amendment or respects it. So what has happened now? Unsurprisingly, a Trump fan has decided to threaten CNN with murdering everyone in the building. Are we surprised? Don't pretend you're surprised. This is exactly what the right wing agitated for, and here you go. And then they tell us, oh, well, he didn't do it yet, so take it easy. No. If you're in that building and there's a mass shooting every day in America, and this guy's coming saying, I'm going to kill you all, you'd be insane not to be worried. So let's go to the story here. Talking Points memo explains over 2 days earlier this month, 19-year-old Michigan resident Brandon Greismer made close to 24 menacing calls to CNN's Atlanta headquarters. He threatened to kill everyone in the building in several of those calls, according to court documents filed on Friday. So what was Brandon saying? He called on me and he said, CNN is, quote, fake news. Gee, I wonder where he got that into his head. I can't quite tell. Then I'm going to give it to you with the curse words. I don't want to say the N-word. So he said, I'm going to gun you all down. Fuck you, fucking N-words. Reference to fake news with racism and violence mixed in. Gee, I wonder where that came from. I can't quite tell. He went on to say, I'm coming for you, CNN. I'm smarter than you, agree to disagree, more powerful than you, I have more guns than you, more manpower, your caste is about to get gunned down in a matter of hours. But what? Oh, just trolls online, just trolls. I mean, they're threatening to murder people and put bullets in their heads, but don't worry about it. Meanwhile, Trump is threatening to arrest people he doesn't agree with politically and in the media, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I mean, as fascism sets in day after day, we're told not to worry about it. No, thank you. I think we should take precautions. And by the way, great work by the authorities in apprehending this man. Later on January 9th, an investigator hired by CNN traced the calls to a number registered to Geisler's father. Turned out to be the same number that Geisler had used to call the Islamic Center of Ann Arbor in September and make derogatory comments about Muslims, according to police records cited in the same court documents. No, he's also anti-Muslim. Well, I didn't see that coming. Gee, I wonder where he got that idea. And on it goes. Now, look, his father, I don't blame him at all. I hold the person responsible, not people around him, not his father or mother, and I get his instinct as a father to defend his son. Of course he's going to want to do that. But he said this comment. He said, this whole thing has been a mistake. He really didn't mean any of it. Now, again, as his father, I get that you want to say that. But no, we do not take your word for it, and we do not take his word for it, because earlier, his word was that he was going to murder everybody in the building. In fact, I'll give you one more quote. He said, I'm coming to Georgia right now to go to CNN headquarters to fucking gun every single last one of you. Luckily, he was stopped by authorities before he did any of that. That is a crime. It should be punished as a crime. We defend freedom of speech. I defend CNN's freedom of speech. We defend our own freedom of speech. We defend our critics' freedom of speech. But saying you're going to murder people is not covered under freedom of speech. That is a direct threat. It can be considered assault. And in a country filled with lunatics, all with weapons, you'll excuse us if we take your insane threat seriously and take precautions surrounding it. So, absolutely should have been arrested, and thank God they got to him before he actually did anything. It is not cute or clever or part of the First Amendment to go around online or on the phone and tell people that you're going to murder them. This is the state of the country we have now. And some people think, oh, Trump, what's the big deal? Only eroded all norms in the country and has degraded our culture, degraded our Constitution, and brought a culture of violence and hatred and fear. Gee, I wonder what's wrong. This is what's wrong. And if you can't see it, you don't want to see it, and you're probably part of the problem. Young Turks.
Oh, did you guys help us win a Shorty Award last year?
Did you?
In the category of Audience Honor for Best Overall YouTube Presence?
Best overall YouTube presence.
We want to win it again this year.
That's right.
We want to win, and we can't do it without your help.
We need you.
We need you.
All right, so here's how we're going to do it, guys. Look, we want to win for Best Overall YouTube Presence for the Young Turks, but we also want to win Best in Overall Facebook Presence and Best Web Series for The Breakdown, which is great. But let me tell you about YouTube Presence. Go to tytnetwork.com/YouTube Presence, which is very logical. Click on the vote in Best Overall YouTube Presence, also very logical. You can log in using your Facebook or Twitter accounts to create a Shorty account to submit your vote. You share your vote on social media, bang, that counts as an extra vote. You're voting like crazy now. Now, do this for the Breakdown and Web Series and in a Facebook presence as well. And you're seeing the links to vote on your screen. And don't worry, we'll have them in the description box below. So easy peasy. You just go right there, just click, boom, you're there. And get a load of this. You can vote once per day all the way to February 22nd.
Every day. every day.
Go nuts. Have fun. You know, we always tell you to get out and vote. This gives you an opportunity to do it over and over again. Sorry. You know, by the end, we might just get tired of winning.
No. And this is great practice for the midterm elections. You know, get that voting muscle in order.
That's right. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Practice.
What is
Back on the Young Turks, let me read some tweets for you. Jim Chilton says, I have a question that I would like to ask Bernie Sanders for the town hall today. How do I do that? Too late. So, Jim, that's why you got to watch the show every day or become a member. Okay, but seriously, like, we asked you guys for submissions earlier, and we will take questions from the audience, but you had to submit that not a long time ago, but a couple of days ago, so that we actually have time to take the video and then show it during the town hall. So guys, keep watching the show. When we ask you to participate, please participate. Because yes, one of you will get to ask a question to Bernie Sanders today. You'll see in the town hall who that is, okay? Andrew says, so curious, is TYT only an hour and then the town hall? Yes. For today only, Andrew, we got an hour and then in about 40 minutes the town hall with Bernie Sanders starts, hosted by Anna Kasparian. Anthony says, Jank keeps saying a shooting will soon or later affect everyone. I have a coworker whose daughter attends this school. She called dad from the girls' locker room telling him that someone was shooting up the school. That is the very last thing that I want to tell you guys told you on. Jesus Christ, man. It's around the corner for everyone, and we're not doing a goddamn thing about it. Oh, the Muslims, the Latinos, the guy who crossed the border. The guy who crossed the border doesn't have a dime to his name, let alone a gun. The guy living next to you probably has 13 guns and is 1,000 times bigger threat. All right, I got a lot more stories. Let's go over here. Okay. So the Republicans are on the warpath on this issue of texts between two people at the FBI who were part of Mueller's investigation in the beginning, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. First of all, it should be noted that the FBI says that there's 5 months of text missing. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable when the CIA loses the torture tapes where they tortured people and they had it on tape, and they had a court order to retain that evidence, and they just trashed it. And so I don't know why or how the FBI lost these texts, but it's not an acceptable situation. So now, having said that, there's a piece of information shared by a Republican senator here, generally helps their cause, but of course they're going to twist that into trying to appear that way anyway. So let's give you the context here. I'm going to go to law and crime. FBI agent Peter Strzok was dismissed from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team after messages he sent that demonstrated a bias against President Trump. So just to remind you of the background here. And by the way, yes, he was dismissed. The minute they found out about the text messages where he was saying that he doesn't like Trump, he was off the team like that. No, not good enough. Well, if it was a deep state plan, why did they kick him off the team? Why don't they just let him continue? Okay. In one of the messages, though, Strzok apparently wrote, "You and I both know the odds are nothing about this investigation coming up with something. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern that there's nothing big there." Whoa, that's super interesting. I thought this guy was part of the deep state conspiracy, according to the right wing, to make sure that he gets Trump. But in text messages from back then, he writes to Lisa Page, "I don't think there was anything to the Trump investigation." Well, then how is he part of a secret cabal? Okay, more from Law and Crime. They say these texts, of course, came well before news came out about Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with a Russian attorney with hopes of getting dirt on Hillary Clinton, and prior to the guilty pleas of Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos for providing false statements to federal agents. So you shouldn't take at face value that he thought there was nothing there about the investigation today. That was before the investigation began. But here's the guy who's supposed to be plotting this whole thing against Donald Trump. Why is he saying in private, "I don't think there's a big deal there"? If he was going to do a hatchet job on Trump, wouldn't he be saying, "Oh my God, it's a giant big deal and we're going to go get him"? Instead, he says the opposite. But it doesn't matter. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, twists it and says this. Still, Johnson believes that this is evidence that the investigation has a political agenda. Well, if it's evidence that the investigation has a political agenda, well, then I guess the political agenda is they did not intend to get Donald Trump. The guy that you think is most guilty wrote a text message saying, "I don't think Donald Trump is guilty." Wow, what a plot to undermine him. Ladies and gentlemen, you got him. No, he went in, apparently, even though he really doesn't like Trump, and that is clear in the text messages. He really doesn't like Trump, but he goes in and with an attitude of not only an open mind, but one that actually favors Trump in this investigation. But there's nothing the Republicans can't twist. So then we go to Fox News, of course. Lou Dobbs is somehow still on television. I think it's Fox Business, but he never talks about business. He just talks about conspiracy theories, etc. So he's going to then say, "Okay, great, let's use this as an excuse of a purge of law enforcement so that we can put the lawless people in charge and we could, hey, anybody got a brown shirt? Anybody got a brown shirt? Lou Dobbs would like one. Let's watch."
The Justice Department and the FBI, again, two agents, an agency and a department sworn to preserve the national security, violating law and order and the Constitution, and denying Congress the fulfillment of its responsibility, which is to oversee those two organizations. This is reprehensible. What do you think can be done most expediently to preserve evidence and to bring people who are in positions of authority to bay to prevent further corruption?
So now, if you started with, hey, they shouldn't have gotten rid of the text messages or should have made a bigger effort to keep them, well, then, as I explained in the beginning, I'm with you. You're outraged by that. I don't mind that. Fine, of course, you're outraged by it. God bless, right? But then when you take the extra step and say, we need to bring them to bay, these political opponents of ours, okay? Now, you just found a text message of the guy saying, I don't think Trump is guilty. It doesn't matter. Fire anyone investigating Donald Trump. He sounded John Bolton. John Bolton's a maniac. He's the guy who said we should get rid of 10 floors of the UN building. And then, of course, Bush made him a UN ambassador. He couldn't even get Bolton to agree. He's like, Bolton's like, well, they are the FBI. I mean, I think, don't we need them? Right? And so Lou Dobbs is going to double down.
The rank and file, this is not an issue.
Yeah.
But I believe the Department of Justice and the FBI are corrupt, they're crooked, and they need to be removed forthwith.
So now we're talking about removing the heads of the FBI of their leadership and removing the leadership of the Department of Justice. Who would want to remove all the people in charge of enforcing the law? The people that have either already broken the law or are interested in further breaking the law. This is exactly how fascism begins. Those are political enemies. They're investigating our law breaking? Well, then we just round them up. And on Fox, they've already suggested not only firing them, but arresting them. We're just Lou Dobbs. You know, it's interesting. Trump has been clarifying. Because Lou Dobbs has been hiding that brown shirt in his closet for all these years. But the minute he gets a chance, all of a sudden he's like, oh, it's time to put it on? Like, yes! Round up our political enemies! Not in America. Not according to our Constitution. We're supposed to have rule of law, and no one is above the law, including the president. And if you don't respect that, you're not a true American. And look at these Republicans who pretended for all these years to be for law and order, now talking about firing everybody at the FBI and the Justice Department because they're investigating their dear, beloved, crooked, corrupt leader, Donald Trump. They sicken me. All right. Now, let's go to an actual decent human being. Probably disagree with him on politics on 98% of stuff, but let's take a look at what he's doing. So, you know, Donald Trump, of course, fired James Comey, former head of the FBI. Why? He said on national television, in an interview with NBC, because of the Russia thing. He said he was investigating Russia. Well, thank you for admitting obstruction of justice, but he's not done yet. He also wanted to get rid of Jeff Sessions, who's his attorney general, because he wasn't sufficiently loyal enough. He let Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general, appoint a special counsel. So he's agitating and to inspire everyone who's investigating me. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder if it's because Donald Trump's a criminal who wants to hide his criminal activity. Okay, so now what does he want? Well, it turns out, Axios has new reporting, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, at the public urging of President Donald Trump, has been pressuring FBI Director Christopher Wray to fire Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. But Wray threatened to resign if McCabe was removed, according to 3 sources with direct knowledge. So, it turns out Christopher Wray, the hero in this story. Now, I don't know Christopher Wray's politics, and given that he's appointed by deeply right-wing forces, my guess is that he is not going to agree with me on much politically. But if you stand up to people who are trying to destroy rule of law in this country, destroy our Constitution and our system of government, then God bless your heart, you are an American hero. At least on that. So, and by the way, Comey, for all of his foibles and all of his ups and downs, remember, forget Trump, forget Clinton, he also stood up to Bush. When Bush was trying to undermine the rule of law, James Comey stood up. He stood up against Trump when Trump demanded loyalty and said, you better be loyal to me and end the investigation of Flynn, and Comey didn't do it. That's why he was fired. So there are a couple of heroes in our government. So Sessions told the White House counsel, Don McGahn, about how upset Wray was about the pressure on him to fire McCabe, and McGahn told Sessions this issue wasn't worth losing the FBI director over, according to a source familiar with the situation. So there is Sessions trying to please Donald Trump, going, oh, yes, after you told me that I should resign and I'm a loser and and I should be fired. Okay, now I'll do whatever you say, dear leader. I'll do whatever you say, dear leader. And he goes to fire the deputy director that Trump doesn't like because of the investigations of himself. And it doesn't work because Ray stands up, and even the White House counsel says, don't do it. It's going to be an absolute mess. Now, why do you think Donald Trump is trying to fire everyone who is investigating him? By the way, also people investigating Russians like Preet Bharara, doing a massive investigation of Russian oligarchs in the Southern District of Manhattan. And then, even though Trump had said he would stay on, he was fired immediately. And then the case was settled right after that. The Russian oligarchs were free to go. They paid a minor fine in that case, and they wrapped it all up. So fire anyone who's investigating Donald Trump or the Russians. Gee, I wonder why. But I'm told there's no evidence. Well, golly gee, what would be the connection of Russia and Trump? Trump being worried about a criminal investigation of himself, what would give you that idea? You would have to be absolutely blind not to see that Donald Trump is trying to cover his own ass and fire anyone who investigates him. Gee, I wonder why. I have a guess. Because he fucking did it. That's why. Wake up. Okay. I'm a little animated by that because I've got Russian bots right now on Twitter. Oh no, I think Russia's awesome and Putin is a friend of democracy. But I'm not a bot. No, I have convinced some lunatics that there's no evidence at all. No evidence. Where's the evidence? I don't know. Of course, if somebody's investigating you and you're innocent, you would fire all of them, wouldn't you? At the risk of your own presidency, you would do that. Why? Because you're monumentally stupid? No, because you're monumentally guilty. That's why. I don't see any evidence. Yes, I'm mocking you. All right, let's move forward. How could you not see evidence? Jesus Christ. Okay. All right, we're moving on. All right, this is all in a lead up to my anger about the Democrats. That was the appetizer. Okay. So, the Democrats had a winning hand in the budget showdown. By a 20-point margin, Americans said that they would blame Donald Trump and the Republicans. Well, the issue that they were fighting over, there was two of them. One was CHIP. Well, that has about an 80% popularity. And the other one, CHIP, is Children's Health Insurance. It's been an incredibly successful program. It was bipartisan to begin with. But now the Republicans said in September, we're going to end it. We're going to hold it hostage. We're great. If you don't know anything about politics, you go, oh, you would like to attack me on an issue where I have 80% popularity. Have at it, Hoss. But Democrats are like, oh, no. Okay, as you're going to see in the quotes here in a second. And then the second hostage they took was DACA. So that's the DREAM Act, protecting the dreamers. That has one poll had it around 70%. I saw another poll had a popularity of 84%. Oh, you want to attack us on that issue where I have an 84% approval rating? Have at it, Hoss. But no, what did the Democrats do? Oh, no, oh, no. And so they caved in. Now, they did a 3-week compromise. Yesterday, we broke down the upsides and the downsides of that deal. But overall, the message that they sent was, we are weak, and you can push us around. And even if we have an issue where we have 70, 80% of the American people on our side, we will not fight. So, what has happened since then? Well, we've got a White House source telling The Hill, telling CNN, quote, Trump wins again. They're rubbing it in. And another administration aide told CNN, Democrats caved. They're gloating. They're high-stepping. So here is Donald Trump. Now, in the midst of this tweet, he's taking the White House sources, and he misunderstands, and he thinks that CNN is saying this stuff, but he's bragging about it. So that's his usual idiocy. But the thing to focus on is him saying basically, ha-ha, Democrats. God, you were so stupid to cave in. So he says, even crazy Jim Acosta of fake news CNN agrees. Trump world and White House sources dancing in the end zone. Trump wins again. Schumer and Dems caved, gambled, and lost. And then Trump says, thank you for your honesty, Jim. Hey, idiot, he's quoting people inside your White House. He's not saying that Jim Acosta thinks and CNN thinks you won. But it doesn't matter. The whole point is, they're dancing in the end zone, and then Trump does it publicly. He didn't have to do it anonymously because he couldn't help himself. He goes on Twitter and starts, yeah, we won. Schumer, you're an idiot for ever believing anything I said and for ever giving Mitch McConnell anything he ever wanted. Ha ha. And then one more, he says in a tweet, the Dems have just learned that a shutdown is not the answer. So, one more just in your face. Okay. So, now we go to the Hill for an explanation from Democratic Senator. Why did you guys do it? Well, it turns out, and we're putting it on Schumer, and yes, he's the leader, so he takes responsibility. But no, he has a bunch of cowards in his caucus. Absolute cowards. So, we'll get a load of these quotes. One Democratic senator said, we went in with a very weak set of cards with 25 people up for re-election. Why in the world is that a weak set of cards? But you have 70 to 80% approval on your issue. Why is that a weak set of cards? Because you're a coward. You never want to fight. Never, ever, 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 ever. Oh, well, I'm up for re-election. Yeah, that's not when you run. That's when you fight. No wonder you lose elections. Oh, I'm up for re-election. I want to just give in. I want to give it to Republicans. What kind of a pathetic person does that? The kind of pathetic person that keeps losing to Republicans when they have 20, 30-point leads. Okay, if that was it, it's, oh, well, hey, Cenk, maybe it's just the one guy. Oh, no. I got a lot more where that came from. Another Democratic senator said almost every local news channel he spoke to over the weekend began its interview with the same question. Why did Democrats shut down the government? Oh my God, they asked me a question that was written by the right wing. I don't know if you know this, Democratic senators. You also have this thing called a mouse where you get to speak words out of it so you can make your own position clear. How about you tell the local news guys, I didn't shut the government down. Donald Trump shut the government down. Who's in charge of the government? Hey, maybe as a idiot local news reporter who gets his talking points from the right wing, you don't know that the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate is all controlled by Republicans. Do you know that, son? Do you know that? Oh, you don't know. Oh, you do know that. So why would you use a right-wing talking point against me? The reality is, these programs are enormously popular. Why? You don't want children to get health insurance? Is that what you're saying? You counterattack, you moron. But no, they've never heard of it. You're like, counterattack? Fight? What does that mean? Why is the base so upset at us? Why do progressives get frustrated? I can't tell. Okay, here's another Democratic senator. You can't win. I mean, look at the beginning of that fucking sentence. You can't win. I know if you're a loser, coward Democrat, party official, that's what you always think. You can't win. He says you can't win. McConnell used craven politics by putting one group of children versus another, referring to CHIP, Children's Health, versus the Dreamers. No, you can win. You have over 70% approval on both of those. So what do? Here's how you win. Because apparently you guys are so stupid you can't see it. But it's not a matter of being stupid. The donors did exactly what they were supposed to do. They found the worst, weakest, so-called progressives in the country. And they said, oh, would you like to take my money to be a loser, to be a professional loser whose job is to get their back broken by Republicans? Well, yes, sir, I would. Okay, good. Here's millions of dollars to go lose for a living. So, what do? You protect both sets of children. The Democrats never thought of that. Protecting both sets of children. We're popular on both issues. Well, how come nobody told us that? We did tell you. And you're like, oh, but you gave in, as always. Now, it turns out, though, one of the reasons that some of the Democrats wanted to fight actually had nothing to do with the children. Had nothing to do with the DREAM Act. Get a load of this. The shutdown battle became portrayed in the media as Democrats taking a stand for Dreamers facing deportation. But Democratic senators say that was only a small part of it. They felt they had to object to the month-long spending bill House Republicans unveiled early last week because it had no input from Democrats. Oh, turns out the only reason they wanted to fight was because, oh, well, I do declare I have had no input at all. That affects me. The Dreamers, that doesn't affect me. My kids aren't Dreamers. Children's health insurance, I'm rich. I don't need that. That doesn't affect me. My power and privileges were trampled upon? Well, then I do declare I might fight a little bit and then give up. one more along those lines. Democrats felt the lack of consultation and the failure to address their non-immigration priorities were so insulting that they had to take a stand. So for a couple of days, because they weren't consulted, not because of you, not because they care about you, not because they care about any of those issues, but because they felt personally insulted, they did a BS kabuki theater stand for a couple of days and then buckled. And one last piece of, I keep saying it over and over because they earned it, cowardice. There was another Democratic senator. There was inexorable trajectory towards, now my anxiety is officially high. It's a week later, and what are we doing here? You understand that? Oh, the government shutdown has gone on a couple of days. My anxiety is so high. They're never going to fight. Never. So, hey, great. Let's run primaries against them. And we are. I mean, go pick any group you like. Pick the Justice Democrats. Pick another group. Pick any group you like. Just primary the hell out of these guys. Because as long as they're in charge, resistance is a joke. It's a punchline. It's a gimmick. They're never going to resist. All they're going to do, the minute they meet this much of actual resistance, oh my God, a local reporter asked me a question. The shutdown went on for a couple of days. They fold. They fold. They fold. They fold. That's all they ever do. Get them all out. They're all bums. They're not progressives. They never cared about you. All they care about is their own power and privileges. Throw them all out. Get real progressives. Uncorrupted progressives. If they're taking big corporate money, they're going to care about the stock market. Their beloved stock market 1,000 times more than they'll ever care about you. Get them all out. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. Billy Runaway writes in, Trump ran that ad saying the Democrats would be complicit in any murder committed by an illegal alien. The DNC should run an ad saying Republicans are complicit in gun violence. Yes, they absolutely should, but they won't. Why? A local news reporter might ask them about it. The Republicans might attack. Joe Biden today came out, and I like Joe Biden. He's an okay guy. I don't think he should run for president, but he came out and said, well, part of the reason we didn't talk about the Russia meddling during the election, even though the FBI warned us about it, was because of what Steve Bannon might say. Oh, for fuck's sake. God, they're so sad, man. Who gives a fuck what Steve Bannon's going to say? They're so scared of the Republicans. It's just pathetic to look at. Anyway, look, we got a town hall on issues, Medicare for All. And during that tweet at hashtag Medicare for All, and we'll see those tweets. We're going to cover it here. Me, John, and Jimmy will be in the studio. And Anna Kasparian's, of course, hosting the event. And Bernie Sanders is featured. All right, let me give you the last couple of stories here. Okay. So Chuck Schumer was beat up by a lot of the activists and progressive base when he caved in to Donald Trump. Then Donald Trump danced on his grave a little bit by leaking quotes like "Ha ha, Trump wins," and then he wasn't done with the leak, so he rubbed it in a little bit more on Twitter, saying "We won, you lost." So now Chuck Schumer's decided, oh yeah, maybe we aren't gonna do a deal. All right, whatever. Okay, good. It's a good first step. Let me quote Politico here. The Senate Minority Leader, through an aide, informed the White House on Monday that he was retracting an offer he made last week to give Trump well north of $1.6 billion in wall funding Trump had asked for this year, according to two Democrats. Too little, meet too late. But I'll take it, whatever tiny progress Democrats make, when they come out of their shell for a little bit, I guess should be encouraged. So I'll give you more here. And now they say Trump will simply not get a better deal than that on his signature campaign promise. So look, understand that. Two different quotes. Oh yeah, the $1.6 billion we're going to give you, now we're not going to give it to you. And that's the best deal you'll ever get. So that means you are going to give it to him. And by the way, they'll give him even more. They're Democrats, trust me. And Dick Durbin says about Schumer, he called the White House yesterday and said it's over. Who are you guys kidding? Everybody knows who you are. The minute Trump and the Republicans and Mitch McConnell call you with promises, you're going to come running. You think what, the Democrats aren't going to negotiate anymore? They're not going to give anything for the wall? Inconceivable. Okay, all right. They decided, well, after we lost, we decided to put on some armor. They continue here at Politico. The president has now, according to the Democrats, quote, missed an opportunity to get the wall. I'm sure he's crying over it now. Here's Chuck Schumer talking about it.
That was part of a package. It was the first thing the president and I talked about was finishing it by, as he said, Tuesday night, 3 days. And the thought was that we could come to an agreement that afternoon. The president would announce his support, and then the Senate and House would get it done, and it would be on the president's desk. He didn't do that. So we're going to have to start on a new basis, and the wall offer is off the table.
Everybody knows it's going to be back on the table. But hey, congratulations, Democrats, you figured it out. When you're negotiating, the only strategy isn't just give, and give more. For the first time ever, the Democrats realized, what if we take something away? Is that how negotiations work? Yes, that's how it works. So what was the original deal? A dreamer plan written by a bipartisan group of 6 senators, including Jeff Flake, a Republican of Arizona, had included Trump's $1.6 billion request as part of a broader $2.7 billion border security package. So that was the deal. And now Trump said he wanted more, and then As you guys all know, Schumer and the Democrats buckled and passed the budget, at least for 3 weeks, without anything in there for the Dreamers. And Jeff Flake saying basically, don't worry, guys. They're Democrats. They're going to do as they're told. Says this. Senator Schumer's already indicated that he would go for more than $1.6 billion. Republicans will go for more. It's just how much more we can get from the Democrats. And I wish that wasn't true, but that has been the state of negotiations between Democrats and Republicans for the last 20 years. So, yeah, the Republicans will go ask for more, and the Democrats will very, very likely give it to them. So, look, I applaud the move to actually finally take something off the table, but I would be shocked if they stuck with it and actually had effective and competent negotiations. Likely, Jeff Flake is right, Trump's estimation of the Democrats is right, and they will take a giant lead where the people are with them, overwhelmingly so, on the DREAM Act, 70 to 80% approval rating, and they'll blow it. And instead, they'll give Trump a lot of the money that he has asked for his stupid wall. And all that tough talk they said about how he was never going to build a wall, they're going to help him build it because they don't have it in them to fight. Okay. Now, last story for you guys in this hour. And then we got the town hall coming up, as you saw in a brief graphic there. Okay. So this story is disastrous. In the midst of the budget negotiations, they snuck something into that resolution that is potentially horrific and undermines our democracy. So The Intercept, with a great report from Alex Emmons and Ryan Grimm on this, they explain this provision, the provision first reported by The Intercept, appeared in the House version of the spending bill last week and modified the 70-year-old law that first chartered the CIA. It removed language that required intelligence agencies to spend money according to Congress's instructions and replaced it with a provision that allows the agencies to move money around freely and without Congress's knowledge. Oh boy. You understand that? They just passed into law that the CIA and the intelligence agencies don't have to check with Congress. Now they can move money around. Oh, cut off funding for what? That doesn't matter. I can move it around to a project. You authorize it, didn't authorize it, who cares? Rule of law, who cares? 3 branches of government, who cares? No, now the intelligence agencies can do any covert operation they like or perhaps build private armies. Yes, that is part of what they're going for here, and it is public. They've admitted it. I'll share it with you in a second. So, by the way, I thought the Republicans were against the deep state. That creates a worse deep state than we've ever had. Okay, so Blackwater founder Eric Prince has recently pitched the administration on a private intelligence force that would report directly to President Donald Trump and CIA Director Mike Pompeo. Well, that's exactly how fascism goes. The fascists go outside of the rule of law, outside of democracy, and outside of the normal branches of government, and they become unaccountable except to the executive, who then has his own private army that he uses for God knows what, and crushes his opposition. So that planning has not only begun, Eric Prince bragged about it in an op-ed earlier, now it's been passed into law. Okay, the intelligence community in its latest grasp has gone too far for even Richard Burr, The Intercept explains. Richard Burr is a deeply Republican conservative from North Carolina. He said the Republican chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee has long been one of the Senate's staunchest advocates for the intelligence agencies, leading to fight to reauthorize surveillance programs and fighting to bury the results of the Senate's 5-year investigation into CIA torture. But he took to the Senate floor Monday to warn that it would compromise Congress's ability to oversee secret intelligence programs. And they didn't listen to him. Here's a guy who loves the intelligence community, who gave him carte blanche over and over again, who said, oh, torture, what's the big deal? I'll let you cover it up. But even he is going, whoa, this means they're totally unaccountable. They never even have to come back to Congress, and God knows what they can do with that private army and the private CIA that they're now forming. Burr said, quote, effectively, the intelligence community could expend funds as it sees fit without an authorization bill in place. Warning, 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 not heeded. They kept it in the bill and it passed. Now we go to Democratic Senator Mark Warner. He says, if this exemption is granted, and it was, you could potentially have an administration, any administration, go off and take on covert activities, for example, with no ability for our committee, which spends time and has oversight, to say time out or to say we actually disagree with that policy. Now, you think that this is theoretical? No, the planning has already begun and now authorized. So now we go to Raw's story for this part of the story. President Donald Trump is expected to choose the billionaire co-founder of Cerberus Capital Management, who has pushed for turning over the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan to mercenary armies and the CIA to lead the president's Intelligence Advisory Board. So now the president has an Intelligence Advisory Board that can help influence him in how to spend that money for his private armies. Now, one more twist. So why does he care? Why does this guy from this capital management group care? The report also notes that Feinberg, that's his name, has no experience in government. Unsurprising. Aside from his massive investment in military contractor DynCorp, but did donate $1 million 5 days before the election to Rebuild America Now, a Trump-supporting super PAC that went hard after Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton. Now, do you understand that? So a guy who has a lot of money in a defense contractor did a legal bribe called campaign contributions to a super PAC to Trump of $1 million. And in return for that $1 million, and by the way, Eric Prince and his family, which includes the DeVosses, also gave a ton of money to Trump. And what do they get in return? They get a private army and a private intelligence agency within the United States government, funded by us, the taxpayers, but with no accountability. This is exactly how fascism begins. And now it's in the law. So it has begun. God help us all. Things are getting super, super dark. Okay. Now, into that darkness we introduce light. His name is Bernie Sanders. So, we've got a Medicare town hall coming up right now. Here's what I need you to do. Go to either youtube.com/The Young Turks, and you'll see a second stream. So you can watch that stream. It's still on the same channel if you're watching here at youtube.com/The Young Turks. If you're on facebook.com/The Young Turks, you can also do that. You can go to tytnetwork.com/live. And there you might have to refresh. But either way, stay here, and the town hall hosted by Anna Kasparian, featuring Bernie Sanders on Medicare for All, where we show you what the policies of the future can be, and talk a little bit about hope that is beginning imminently. So in under a minute. So stay right here.
I love you, Ma. I love you. It's one okay. Come on.
pilots, young Turks, now this, and attention.
Yes.
And I thank them very much for
Yes.
helping us put on this event tonight. I'll tell you why. Far too often,
Yeah. Tomorrow's gonna be cold.
Cold?
Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be
Leave
cold.
alone. Leave.
limits the nature of what you see.
I'm gonna have to wear this again.
I'll put it downstairs.
So tonight, let me guarantee you that this event will not be interrupted by commercials from the drug companies, or Wall Street, or the insurance
Huh?
companies.
We forgot to smell the toilet.
So thanks again to the Young Turks, now this, and attention.
Sucks.
Yeah.
So let me
Warm
begin
sucks.
with our very first panel.
This one warm
This is
sucks.
a panel designed to discuss the
Just put it in the
dysfunctionality
basement
of
there. I
what's
think
going on
give me the.
in America today.
You care about me?
Yeah, I'm fine.
The three great panelists
Alright.
who are with us. Sam Rock, Claudia Deegan, and Deborah Waddell. Sam Rock has lived in the
Alright.
I love you.
Love you too.
go around this country doing this for a few years, a few years. And what he does, and this will shock many of them, in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, what Sam and his organization, Remote Area Medical, do is provide free clinics in remote parts of the United States of America. And over the last many years, you've done some 800 of these free clinics, volunteer doctors and dentists. Stan, why do you do these events, and what are you seeing out there in the world in terms of healthcare needs? Well, thank you very much. My feelings about this problem go back to 1953. I grew up in Depression. I grew up in World War II. I found myself in the upper Amazon in the 1950s. In 1953, I had a very, very serious accident. And when they picked me up off the ground, one of the people said, the nearest doctor is 26 days on foot from here through that narrow trail through the rainforest. Well, I wasn't able to make that narrow trail through the rainforest, but what I did say was, we're going to bring these doctors a little bit closer, 26 days on foot. And when I came to this country, many years later, I found that there were millions of Americans who may not have been 26 days on foot from the nearest doctor, but they were certainly unable to afford access to the care that they needed. And so we formed this organization called Remote Area Medical Ramp, and we've had over 130,000 volunteers. So this tells you the scope of the volunteer spirit here in America. People want to help. Why the government needs to allow doctors to cross state lines so that these volunteers can provide free care where the government at the moment is not able to provide affordable care. We have found out that in the last 34 years that the major problem of people in this country is dentists. They can't afford to go to the dentist. Now kids, they get some of the dental care that they need as soon as they leave school. They're on their own. By the time they're getting into their 30s, they haven't been able to go to the dentist. They're coming to one of our events by the thousands. And when there's 1,000 people out there who've got numbers, they've been waiting there for maybe 2 days, and they want to get their health care, I say, how many people are in the audience here, meaning that audience of patients, are here to see the dentist? And all the hands go up. Okay, now we've got a lot of really fine optometrists and ophthalmologists here. How many people are here to see the eye doctor because they need a pair of glasses to function? And all the hands go up again. It's the same people. But when they're pressed, they're going to take the dentist first and then the eye doctor, because they are liable to get all kinds of unhappy things happen to them if they don't take care of their teeth. Stan, let me ask you this. I have seen photographs of the clinics that you run. If I did not know this was taking night sleeping in their cars in order to get dental care for healthcare. But I agree. Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks from now, we're going to hold the 900th expedition in our hometown, actually, in Knoxville, Tennessee, where we're based. And I can tell you that 2 or 3 days before that event, there are going to be 1,000 people sleeping in their cars, sleeping in makeshift tents, and some of them don't even don't have a car. They're going to walk there. And when we open the door on January the 31st, and I call out who's got number one, they're going to come in there by the 1,000. And 70% of them are going to be for the dentist, and 30% for the eye doctor. But they all need to see the medical doctors as well, because they're riddled with heart disease and diabetes. We diagnose people with diabetes and heart disease by the thousands. But when they don't feel well, they go to the emergency room in the hospital. The emergency room doesn't do dentistry. The emergency room doesn't make eyeglasses. Okay, let me jump in here because I want to go to Dr. Claudia Vegan. Dr. Vegan is the Chief Medical Officer in Cook County Health and Hospital System in Chicago. During the course of the year, I believe you have 1 million visits. Mostly low-income people of color. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you that 36,000 people died in the United States in 2016 as a result of this country. That we face access to health care in this country on the ability to pay for it and not on the need to share it. So I work in this large public system, and every day people come to see us with advanced disease because they don't have insurance and they thought that they could manage their problems until times got better, but they got too sick and they had to come in. I can tell you about a 56-year-old cook with hypertension who had no medications and had a stroke on his way home from work. I can talk about a 64-year-old salesman, also with hypertension, who thought he could wait until he turned 65 and got Medicare to take care of his high blood pressure, but that little bit of nausea he developed was kidney failure, and now he needs dialysis. I can tell you about the 50-year-old with diabetes who had no medication, who came in with his blood sugar so high that he developed such severe nausea and vomiting, tore his esophagus, so he came in to see us bleeding, dehydrated, and in diabetic ketoacidosis. But I probably will never forget the 54-year-old woman who was a nurse's aide who came into us after struggling for months with difficulty swallowing, and we diagnosed her with advanced esophageal cancer. And I remember telling her that we could put in a feeding tube and talking to her about putting her affairs in order. And she wanted me to arrange for her radiation treatment to be given in the early evening or late afternoon so that she could continue to work. Because what she knew was that if she couldn't continue to work, she wouldn't be able to pay her bills, including her rent, and if she couldn't pay her bills, nothing else mattered. So what we see is that we have studies that show that people who do not have insurance delay seeking care for heart attacks, that people who have co-payments for medication, no matter how low, decreases the utilization of much needed medication, decreases the uses of blood pressure medicine, decreases the use of diabetic medication, and cholesterol-lowering statins. We know that the higher the co-payment, the poorer the outcome for children with asthma. So, we need to make healthcare a right in this country. The reality is that we already spend enough money on healthcare in this country. We just allow too many people who are not involved in the delivery of healthcare to take profit from it.
Yes, of course. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I expect some of the people who actually walk in your door do have health insurance, but their deductibles and co-payments are so high they can't get the deductive when they need it. Would that be true?
That's exactly right. So when you see someone who has health insurance, but their deductible is 10% of their income, $35,000 a year with a $3,500 deductible, that's not insurance. And so the problem we have is people who don't have access to medication. We provide access to medication for our patients.
Now, when we talk about a dysfunctional
about people who walk in your door much later than they should have and end up a great expense for the system, not to mention suffering in the hospital. Does that take place?
So the patients that I gave you examples of were all examples of people who would have been much cheaper to take care of them earlier on. That cook would have been able to continue working if he could afford his blood pressure medication. That gentleman with diabetes got very sick, or the salesman who had uncontrolled hypertension and got kidney failure. He could have continued to work and not need dialysis if he had controlled his blood pressure.
So you see people who are walking in your door a lot later than they should.
Every day. Every day. It's what fills our emergency room. It burdens our clinic. We find it much easier to control the blood pressure than to pay for the rehabilitation after.
That's one of the crazinesses of the system. We pay after at 10 times more than we spend rather than preventing the crisis.
The preventive care is far cheaper.
Deborah Wachtel is a nurse practitioner outside of in Burlington, Vermont. Deborah, you and I were discussing an issue that is probably the issue of most concern in the emergency in terms of healthcare, and that is the high cost of prescription drugs. When somebody walks into your office and they get a prescription for medicine, how often does it happen that they're unable to get that prescription filled that the doctor prescribes?
Well, in our case, it's
In
our case, it's the nurse practitioners. You can see you have a nurse practitioner practice, and whether you're a nurse practitioner, a physician, a PA, when we prescribe medications for patients, it becomes a circus. So one patient might walk in with insurance and their copay is $4, and they walk out very happy. The next patient who has the identical medical issue and it has insurance, their insurance company makes them pay $1,200 for the same medication that another patient would pay $4. My day is spent seeing patients, but interjected throughout my day is phone calls from pharmacists with rejection after denial after rejection of prescriptions that we write.
You spend wasted an enormous amount of time.
Huge amounts of time when I could actually be seeing patients or talking to patients on the phone. And the other issue is that when I write the prescriptions, and this is the worst part, that the insurance companies have multiple different rules about what you can prescribe. So there's like 50 different insurance companies with 50 different formulas. So I write a prescription for a generic medication, send it in. I get a call 2 hours later, 3 hours later, that was denied. But they can't tell me what prescription to write. I sometimes have to read that prescription 4 or 5 times before the pharmacist says, oh, okay, they'll prescribe this, they'll pay for this.
Okay, let me jump in now. I believe we have a video question. The answer is that I'm going to give it over to Dr. Dean.
Yes.
Who has spent half a life fighting for a single-payer system.
So the reality is that the majority of physicians in this country accept Medicare rates. But the other important point here is that with a single-payer system, physicians may take home a greater percentage of what they make because the billing is so similar. And so they don't have to spend the money on the billing staff to try and figure out the wants or needs of the various insurance companies. So actually, and there are malpractice at that as well. So physicians actually make less growth, but they're net greater. So hopefully,
you talked about went to medical school because they wanted to practice medicine, not spend their lives arguing with the insurance companies.
So you have non-physicians directing your practice. You spend as much time as we do training as whether you're practitioners or physician assistants or physicians, and then to have a bureaucrat tell you you have this drug and not that drug. And it's not necessarily because one is cheaper over the other, but because they have a contract with one over the other. The other tragedy is that we are already struggling with a shortage of primary care. I am also a physician, and I work with medical students, and they're in the clinical setting, and they observe how difficult it is to practice when they're learning in school to practice. They so often, at that point in time, make decisions not going to practice. Because it's impossible to spend your entire day fighting when really what you want to do is help the patient.
Then do you have anything to add to this? Well, I get a lot of remarks from doctors around the country. Cities here to volunteer their services in Guatemala and in other countries. So I think although this is not the panacea, not some people call it a band-aid operation, but we've seen close to 1 million people, and doctors need to be allowed to cross state lines to provide free care to people who simply can't afford it. I think what is frustrating about what we're hearing is the enormous waste of time and money. You're arguing with somebody who's well paid at the other end of that telephone. No, you can't use this drug. And you add all that stuff up, you're talking about billions of dollars every single year that is wasted in that kind of effort rather than putting that money into healthcare.
And not just that, we're also arguing every imaging study we order. I had a patient who had a cancer diagnosis. We did not know where the primary tumor was. The only way to start her treatment is to know where the primary tumor was. And every test I ordered, every imaging study, got an immediate denial. It delayed her ultimate treatment by weeks and weeks. And we will never really know if her death was due to the delay in getting these imaging studies done. I don't think anyone argues with evidence practice guidelines. What we argue is restrictions just to limit access. We know that co-payment will deter use of appropriate care. We know that barriers that are placed in front of patients, the fact that you ask the patient if they have insurance or how this visible pain be paid for, deters people from seeking necessary care. What we want to do is take care of patients in the most appropriate way and give them the best care available. Because who doesn't deserve the best care available? We have the capability and we're restrained by the lack of access.
Okay, I think we have a question now from the audience. Please.
Senator, hi everyone. I'm Persia from Nowdeck. We're excited to be one of the co-hosts of this town hall. We have many thousands of people watching online, but we also have hundreds of you in the auditorium tonight. One of those people is Amelia McGuire, who is a public health professional in the Tucson area, and she has a question for your panel. So I know the panel touched on prevention a little bit during that discussion, but I am a registered dietitian and I'm currently serving a public health role. So I'm very frustrated with my population that I work with, which is all low income families, and it's the only line of income families is what I do. So many people struggling to control chronic diseases that could be 100% preventable through different lifestyle interventions. So on top of trying to manage the chronic conditions and also trying to navigate the health insurance atmosphere, and as you were saying, it does take up a lot of the health providers' time, trying to help clients and navigate through the whole map of what healthcare is. So I guess my question is, how would single-payer healthcare address or expand prevention?
Okay, I'm going to give it over to Dr. Segan.
Yeah, so I think that it's a realization that preventive services are far more cost-effective than treating patients after the fact. In Cook County, we've actually partnered because we recognize the problem with nutrition, and we partnered with the Greater Chicago Food Depository so that our providers are able to write prescriptions for food, and that actually the Greater Food Depository sends trucks with fresh fruits and vegetables to our clinic on a monthly basis, and we're able to write a prescription and the patient leaves with several pounds of fresh produce. Not only several pounds of fresh produce, but recipes on how to prepare the produce. And when we have produce when we do this in different communities, for example, in Mexican community, the recipes are in Spanish, and they are more suited to whatever the ethnicity of the community. So I think that this is vital. I think that the American patient-centered medical home, or the primary care medical home, recognizes the need for the support services. It will never be just the physician or just the nurse practitioner or PA who will make a difference to the patient. It will be a team, and part of that is helping to educate patients about how to take care of themselves. Single payer gets us to the point where we can begin to talk about preventive services and not just worry about how the bill is paid.
I'd like to reinforce what Claudia was saying, because we are already doing that in Vermont. We have, again, primary care health homes for our patients with a complete complement of wraparound services. So when we recognize the patients need a dietitian or nutritionist, that's what they get. They need social services, that's what they get. This is a workable solution that already has evidence in practice, and it will not be hard in a single payer system to be able to adapt that to bigger picture.
I think your question speaks to a huge issue. We're going to get into that more in the next time. But we spend twice as much per capita on healthcare as do the people of any other country. We spend about $10,000 per exam for each home. And I don't think there's much debate that we do not do anywhere near what we should in terms of prevention, in terms of making sure that people are eating well. There are parts of the United States of America, there are urban areas where you can't get fresh vegetables. What they call urban deserts and stuff, food deserts.
Yes.
Food deserts. Right? There are
pharmacy deserts as well, because the pharmacies are exiting communities that need access to medication.
And furthermore, it is clear, and Deborah raised this issue, we have a crisis in primary health care. For a lot of reasons, if you are a young doctor young graduate of medical school, leaving school a couple $100,000 in debt, you know what? It's not too likely you're going to go into primary health care. And everybody knows that a strong system is a system in which people can walk in the door when they need to walk in that door. That's the way we save money by people not ending up in the emergency room or the hospital. And everybody knows that looking at families that are in trouble, that when you reach out and you prevent crises, you ease human suffering, and you save substantial sums of money. Right now, we have a healthcare system that is not designed to provide quality care to all people in a cost-effective way. Let us be frank. We have a health system designed to make enormous profits for insurance companies and drug companies. And disease prevention is not very high on their list. Prevention. What should we be doing that we're not doing?
Well, I think first thing, what I tell my residents is that you will never ever take care of a patient. You will teach patients how to take care of themselves. And that prevention is all about teaching patients about themselves, their disease process, and what are the most important things for them to do. What we're asking is to free the hands of the providers so that they don't have to spend so much time worrying about how they'll be compensated for that time, and allow them to spend the time with patients and educate them about how to educate them about their diet and exercise and lifestyle.
I would like to add, here of climate change and disaster relief, when you get a big disaster like the one we all responded to, Hurricane Harvey, places flooded, it's bringing on healthcare issues and the people that are suffering more than anybody else, the poor and the underserved. We're going to have to wrap up this panel. Deborah, any final words that you want?
I just want to reiterate that until we fix this disgraceful situation, we have we're not going to fix this situation. We need to get, in order to get primary care providers back into the system, we have to let people practice. And we have to give them an environment that they can actually practice in. And until we do this, we provide a better system that allows us to take care of our patients. It's not going to work.
And with that, let me thank this panel, guys. Great job. Thank you very much. Okay. Anna is now going to introduce the next segment. Anna?
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. For those of you who are watching online and just tuning in, we are having an incredibly important discussion about Medicare for All and the single-payer system here in the United States. And we just had a conversation about the crisis of healthcare in the U.S., what it's like to be a doctor, dealing with health insurance companies, private insurance, what it's like to be an American who is uninsured and can't afford the care that he or she needs. Now, in the second segment of this town hall, we will focus on the economic questions that arise when it comes to healthcare. There is a lot of fear-mongering out there. You will have individuals who will look at this proposal by Senator Sanders. They'll say that doctors won't be compensated fairly, or that it's going to cost the United States $1.4 trillion a year in order to have a Medicare for All system. But what is the reality? What will it really cost Americans? What will it take for doctors to agree to this type of system? These are all the questions that we will dive into in this next segment, so stay tuned.
Who was that young guy? We've got a panel now to discuss an aspect of our healthcare system that does not get enough attention. And that is, what does it mean when we spend $10,000 per person on healthcare? What does that mean to the business community? What does it mean to the
discuss some of these issues. Let's start with Richard Massa. Richard is the founder and CEO of MCS Industries in Easton, Pennsylvania. And this is a company which does about $200 million a year in business. And for a number of years now, he has been very active in the fight for single payer. Richard, you're a business guy. Why is single payer sensible to you and to the business community?
Senator, about 5 years ago, after many years, 10 years of volatility, cost, demands from insurance companies annually for an increase in premiums, I realized that this was something that I had to get involved as a patriotic American. Our company employs 180 people in Pennsylvania and throughout the United States. Our healthcare bill is $2.8 million a year. It costs $27,000 to insure an employee with a family. That's $13.50 an hour, which is, if you put this into context, it is about as much as 1/3 of the population can't make in a year. So this is an outrageous cost. We're beyond the tipping point at this point. We have really got to do something to control costs. Now, we look at the Medicare for All solution. Right now, we are spending about 18% of payroll for healthcare costs, for health insurance. We look at Medicare, the model for Medicare for All, it's 10%. We could be saving tremendous amounts of money, and we would be relieving our employees of the anxiety of not being able to pay their deductibles.
As an employer of a couple of hundred people, how many people do you have? 180 people. What would it mean to you to know that every one of your employees had good quality health care and it's not an issue that you have to spend half your life worrying about?
It would mean so much to the spirit of our organization. We're a caring company. We provide scholarships for our employees who go to the community college and other colleges and to their children. And we see day after day employees that are threatened with bankruptcy. Now, what we have done, we've had insurance policies, and then we have a secondary insurance policy that takes care of the deductible so that our employees don't have that anxiety. But that's the reason for the massive expense. The $27,000 a year, that's approximately the cost for average cost across the country for a family of 4 in this country.
Are you finding more and more people in the business community going beyond ideology and understanding that Medicare for All would be a good policy for them from a business perspective?
Yes, we're seeing that. We started an organization called the Business Initiative for Health Policy, and we're getting substantial support for that. We started another organization called Business Leaders Transforming Healthcare. In California, we have 300 members, business members, for the Business Alliance for Health in California. We have other memberships, 200, 300 members across the United States. New York is starting an organization. Ohio is starting an organization. Yes, there is momentum.
Okay, let me jump to Jen Kimmick. Jen, you and your husband co-founded a brewery, Alchemist Brewery. You have about 50 some odd employees. What does this current healthcare system mean to you as a small, medium-sized business person? Hold the microphone.
We provide health insurance to all 50 of our employees, full health insurance for employees, their children. We cover half for spouses. My husband and I do this for 3 reasons. The main reason is because we believe everyone should have access to quality health care. Simple. The second reason is it's just a plain good business decision. When our employees are healthy and when our employees' families are healthy, our business does better. Morale is up and productivity goes up. And the third reason, and this is really important, is we can afford it. And I say that because it took us 8 years of business before we were able to afford it. We spend $300,000 a year now on health insurance. And our employees don't have the best health insurance. We have what is considered a great plan. It's a silver plan, but the deductibles are high, the co-pays are high, and the out-of-pocket expenses are high. So we spend all of this money, and our employees still don't have the stability they need, and they still don't visit the doctor when they need to.
Jen, what would it mean if you, running a business in a competitive industry, if all of your employees had health care as a right, and you could worry about making the best beer in the country rather than providing health care?
It would be great for our business because, again, our employees would go to the doctor and get the medicine they need and get the treatment they need. But it would also level the playing field for all businesses, especially small businesses. Vermont, like a lot of states in this country, are really small business states. 90% of the businesses in the state of Vermont have 20 or less employees.
And it seems to me you're trying to do the right thing from a moral perspective. But if you're competing against somebody who has a different point of view, am I mistaken that you're in an economic disadvantage?
Absolutely. And it's harder to compete with recruitment and retainment. It would level the playing field for all businesses. And then I would also add that while there are a lot of employers that can't afford insurance, there are a lot that can and simply don't. And so when we're covering 50% of those spouses, we're covering bigger employers that just are not willing to.
That's an interesting point. Our next guest needs no introduction, to some people at least. Dr. Don Berwick was trained as a pediatrician and served in the Obama administration as the Director for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the head of CMS. Don, let me ask you, start off with a simple question. You ran Medicare, you ran Medicaid for the United States of America. My understanding is that the administrative costs for Medicare are somewhere between 1 and 2%. Administrative costs for private insurance vary 11 to 15, 18%. Why is Medicare so much more cost effective than private insurance?
Because the only thing we're trying to do is stand up for the Medicare beneficiary. No billboards, no high salaries, the complexity of the system just isn't there. It's simple. I spent the bulk of my career, I'm a pediatrician, but most of my career has been spent trying to figure out ways to improve quality, lower cost of healthcare all over the world, not just the U.S. And what we got here is insane.
Is that a medical term?
We are, like you said, double the next most expensive country. Our life expectancy is 31st in the world. Our infant mortality is 38th in the world. We have an underperforming system at extremely high cost. And this, you've heard from the business side what that does to business. What it does on the public side, you know better than me, Senator. But in my state, Massachusetts, every line item in the state budget has gone down steadily in 2 decades. Parks and Recreation is down 50%, education down 20%. You name it. Law enforcement is down 20%.
Because we're pumping more and more money to escalating healthcare costs.
52% increase in healthcare costs in the same interval from 2000 to 2018. So this is confiscation. This is healthcare taking money from businesses that need it, labor that needs it, and public services that need it. And it's wrong.
Let me ask you this. You ran Medicare for the Obama administration. Medicare is, in fact, the most popular health insurance program in the country. Is there any reason, in your judgment, why we should not expand Medicare, which now covers people 65 and older, every man, woman, and child in this country?
No, there's no reason. It just will. Running Medicare, I didn't run Medicare for all. I ran Medicare for Medicare. But it's a privilege. You get to go to work in the morning. There are 50 million Medicare beneficiaries, 60 million or 70 million Medicaid, and you just makes sense. When we need transparency, we have transparency. We can find out the prices. You need prevention. We shifted money to prevention. Before and since the Affordable Care Act, you need chronic disease care. You need a nutrition program. Medicare can do it. When I got a report from the Inspector General saying that we're over sedating people in nursing homes, the next day I was on the phone with the nursing homes and the geriatricians said, "You stop it or we'll stop it." You can stand for people. Why wouldn't we do that for all Americans, not just people over 65?
Okay. Let's jump to a video question.
Hi, Senator Sanders. I'm Andy from Washington State. My question is, Medicare for all will pass. Would the tax increase be more or less than what I'm already paying out for my employer's sponsored plan?
Thank you very much, Andy, for that question. As a recipient of 30-second ads that raise that issue, let me respond. Here's what goes on. When you watch TV, what people will say, and I had this thrown at me all of the time during my presidential campaign, Sanders is trying to raise taxes. Well, it is true. And many people, not all, will pay more in taxes. But if I told you today that instead of paying $10,000 a year or $15,000 a year for private insurance, you would have to pay $5,000 or $7,000 more for comprehensive health care for your whole family, what most Americans would say is, where can I sign up? So my Republican colleagues think it is somehow godly to be paying incredibly large amounts of money to insurance companies. That's good. That's wonderful. But somehow it is terrible to be paying somewhat more in taxes. Bottom line is that when we spend twice as much per capita on healthcare as any other nation, we could substantially lower the cost of healthcare in America, which drives down the cost per capita, which means that we are spending less. Right now, we have the absurd situation where in the last 5 years, the largest 5 pharmaceutical companies in America made $50 billion in profit. $50 billion in profit at a time when millions of Americans cannot afford the health insurance that they desperately need and cannot afford the medicine that they need. So the issue is whether or not we join every other country on earth and talk about a national healthcare system or we continue our dysfunctional system. Now, I shouldn't have ranted for that long, but let me throw it back to our distinguished panel. Richard?
The United States is the only country in the industrialized world that relies on private, for-profit insurance companies to finance a substantial part of its healthcare system. We spend $1.1 trillion a year in this country for private insurance. $200 billion of that goes for administration, sales and marketing expense, and overhead and profit. If that money were devoted to Medicare, it would be in the $20 to $30 billion incremental. It's an absurdity, and the reason we do it is because the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies spend enormous amounts of money on lobbying Congress, on public relations campaigns, on corrupting our media so that we don't get information that we really need to make an intelligent population.
Don, did you want to add something to what Richard said?
I just think about the future we could have if we really could organize care on behalf of people and communities, really move the money around to where it's really needed, really be transparent about prices and about where the money's flowing, and be accountable, we can have a better system. I think it would cost less. I think it would cost substantially less, but even if it cost the same, which I don't think it would perform better. We finally have a system that's responsive. Medicare, you could find out what's going on. You can find out what's going on in this incredibly complex system that's built for opacity. This is an accountability issue, which is if we have Medicare for all, finally the system would work for the people. And it demands transparency. Would it be simple? No. Lots of problems to solve, but we are solving it in daylight. And that's what intrigues me about the possibility.
Let me pick up on a point. That Richard just made. Because really what we're talking about is not primarily a healthcare issue. It is a political issue. That's really what it is. Since 1998, in the last 20 years, the pharmaceutical industry alone has spent over $3.6 billion in lobbying, not to mention hundreds of billions of dollars in campaign contributions. They have an endless amount of money, and they use that money to maintain a system which uniquely in the world allows them to raise prices anytime they want, to any level they want. They have been able to keep Medicare from negotiating prices with the drug companies. We're the only major country that does not sit down and negotiate prices. Veterans Administration does, but in general, we don't. Medicare does not. We are not allowed to re-import into this country lower cost price prescription drugs from Canada or other countries, and we pay by far the highest prices in the world for our medicine. So I think when you look at the crisis that we're facing, it is not a debate over healthcare. It is very difficult to defend a system in which 30 million people have zero health insurance, even more are underinsured. Our healthcare outcomes are not particularly good, our life expectancy not particularly high, and for all of that we spend twice as much as any other country. Hard to defend that. But what goes on here is lobbyists all over this place, campaign contributions in the hundreds of billions of dollars, which takes us to the issue of campaign finance reform, etc., etc. But, okay, I think we got a question right here from the audience.
Very quickly, I want to give some context for the people here in the audience and also the people watching on the live stream. The video questions that you're seeing were sourced from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube comments. We got hundreds of comments of people wanting to ask all of you and the senator questions, which just shows the level of public interest in this topic. And we also have another great question from our audience here. Michael Massad has a question for you all.
Thank you, Senator Sanders and panel. Senator Sanders, I want to say that your advocacy for the middle class is the reason I find myself in Washington, D.C. today and able to ask you this question.
Thank you very much.
So, I've worked for several corporate employers over the course of my adult life, and I found that they prefer hiring part-time employees rather than taking on full-time workers. Where there was one full-time position, they'll staff maybe one part-time, maybe two if you're lucky, and they'll schedule the part-timers, including myself, right up to that full-time threshold within a half an hour of it, just so that they can avoid providing full medical coverage. Because of this, I went 10 years without access to affordable health care until the Affordable Care Act. That was the first health care I had known as an adult. So my question is, what can be done to address this kind of exploitation of workers by employers who could easily afford extending coverage, especially in states where healthcare exchanges offer very few choices, like my home state of Arizona? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Great question. Look, thank you for that question. on issues of do we believe as a people that healthcare is a right or is it a privilege? I believe that it is a right for every man, woman, and child in this country. And so do most of the American people. But because of the dysfunctional system that we have, we run into absurd situations like you described, Michael. And let me give you an example of how crazy, or to quote Don Ovia, how insane this situation is. You've got a company like Walmart. Walmart is owned by the Walton family, which is the wealthiest family in our country. They're the wealthiest family in America. But they pay wages that are so low that many of their employees end up on Medicaid, which you pay for. So on behalf of the Walton family, I want to thank the working families of this country for subsidizing them. We're very grateful to you. But the point is, that's one situation. You described another situation, and that is people working part-time so that the employer can avoid providing the benefits that that employee would otherwise be entitled to. How crazy is that? So what we have ultimately got to do, it seems to be, is two very simple things. Number one, as a nation, do we say that we join every other major country on earth in recognizing that whether you work full-time or part-time, whether you're a single mom, whether you're 90 years of age, health care is a right, not a privilege. And once you make that determination, then the next question which we're discussing now is, what is the most cost-effective way to do it? And I think all of the evidence suggests that a Medicare for all single-payer system is that way. Now, what we have going in America today is we have, if you like, an example of what a good system is. We don't have to invent Medicare, we have it. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a popular, effective program. Unfortunately, it only is applicable to people 65 or older. So the simple answer is, Michael, that whether you work part-time or whatever, Medicare should be available to all of us. And the legislation that I've introduced, along with 16 co-sponsors here in the Senate, would do just that. All right, let me throw it out to the panel. Michael raises the absurdity of employers intentionally finding ways to avoid providing health care. Who wants to comment on that? The system is full of incentives that really don't make sense. We have employees at MCS that are 50, 60 years old, and the insurance companies are asking us every year at renewal time, well, you have an aging workforce. What are you doing about it? Well, are they suggesting you should fire your older workers? They're not, but the incentive is for us to move our older workers out through bonuses, through various ways of retirement, which becomes very expensive, and also it is a waste of human capital. I mean, what a gross injustice. Somebody who's working well at 60, why shouldn't the person continue to work? Here's another incentive. The insurance companies make more money as healthcare costs rise. At the same time, they're supposed to be representing us, Senator, in negotiating reimbursement rates effectively for our benefit. That's a serious conflict of interest. And we know that there are, we call it crony capitalism. We know that there are deals being cut throughout the between insurers and hospitals. Okay, you raise your price a little bit here, you cover me over there, and the ratepayers will pay. That's the way the system is working. Jen, what's your experience?
We experience the same thing. As I said before, we have several employees whose spouses don't get insurance from their employers. And we need everyone in the pool. We need everyone to pitch in. Everyone needs health care. But I just want to say, we don't just want our employees to have health care. We want and we need everyone in this country to have health care if we are going to seriously have economic progress in this country. Without it, it's just not possible.
Don, if you could jump in and respond, but also we haven't gotten very far into the question of international competitiveness. So if you're an American company competing against a Canada company in Europe, and their healthcare costs are all covered by the government, aren't we at a disadvantage? Aren't our companies at a disadvantage? Richard, Don?
Well, certainly. Warren Buffett, one of our most profound and successful business leaders, has reflected on this. His statement several months ago at a Berkshire Hathaway meeting was very profound. He said that healthcare is the tapeworm in the belly of American competitiveness. And it's true. Very true. If we're spending $10,000 a person and another country is spending $5,000 a person, we're at a serious disadvantage. We're going in the wrong direction.
Well, first, the same is true on the public side. It hurts American public integrity, the ability to invest in housing and transport, the things that make us the country we want to be in other countries if the money's all going over to healthcare. I just want to comment on Mr. Michaud's story. All I could reflect on when I was the head of Medicare, I went all over the country visiting, centers for the aging and populations of Medicare beneficiaries. The one question that was never in the room, never, was, do I have coverage? They do. They know it. We walk in and the platform's completely different. We could do that for everybody. And the behaviors of the insurance companies and the drug companies and all, look, they're playing the game according to the way the rules are written now. And as we don't change the rules, we're going to get the same game. We have to change the rules. Medicare for all is a fundamental change in the social contract of America. And it would change behaviors because it would change the world.
Let me toss out a question. Tell me what you think about this. My guess is there are millions of American workers who are currently in jobs that they don't particularly enjoy because they get decent health care. I remember some years ago there was an article in the paper about some guy in his 50s went into the military, went back into the military, and somebody said, why are you going into the military at the age of 55 or whatever it was? He said, well, my wife has breast cancer, and that's the only way that I can get treatment for her. How many people do you think are in jobs they really are not happy with, but have decent insurance? What would it mean for the economy if people could say, you know what, I don't have to stay at this job. I could go someplace else. I could start a small business, and I'm going to have good quality health care. Is that a factor that we should be thinking about?
Absolutely. Small business is the economic engine of our communities. We know that. And small businesses aren't able to go out and start up because they can't compete with recruitment and retainment, or young entrepreneurs aren't inspired to go out and start their business because of lack of health care. We're really not doing the best we can. We really need health care to push our economy forward.
Another thing to remember is the only source of the money is labor. Whether it goes through taxes, or the employer's contribution, or the out-of-pocket expenditures, it's always coming from the worker. Everything is coming from the worker. So when we say these costs are high, we mean American public, American worker, you deserve to get more money. You deserve to have the money in your pocket or better used.
Senator, we haven't discussed the phenomenon of flat wages. We just talked about job lock. Flat wages, you look at $13.50 an hour. And if that's going up 10% a year, that's, for that employee, it's $1.30 next year more than it is. His premium share is 25% or 20%, as it is in most cases. His cost of living increase is not going to cover the increase in premium. And that means flat wages or even negative wages, while the employer is experiencing a 5 to 7% increase in labor costs. This is economically unsustainable. We have got to do something about it.
Well, I think what we have got to do about it is to start thinking big, not small. And just ask yourself, this is not a radical idea. The point I want to make over and over and over again, what we are talking about exists in virtually every major country on earth. Think about a nation where you could start a small business and not worry about having to provide health insurance to your workers. Think about a young person who has a dream of what kind of business you want to start, and you don't have to worry about whether or not your family is going to have health insurance. This is not a radical idea. It exists all over the country. And it's time for us to get off the dime here and move forward and join other countries for a Medicare for all single payer system. So, panel, thank you very much. Great job. Anna?
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Thank you to the panel. For those of you who are just tuning in online, I'm Anna Kasparian with the Young Turks, and we are having a town hall discussion on Medicare for All, a proposal that Senator Sanders has championed and is now digging deep into with healthcare professionals. We've talked about the crisis of healthcare in America. We've talked about what the economic impact of the Medicare for All system would have, and now we are going to discuss what it's like in other countries that have a single-payer system. Now, how many of you have heard politicians say things like, "Oh, healthcare in Canada is terrible. They all hate it." How many of you actually hear Canadians say that? Well, you're very lucky tonight because we are going to have healthcare professionals who have some insight into what a single-payer system is like in other countries. And we will take questions not only from the audience, but we have questions that the audience members from the Young Turks, Now This, and Attention put together for this event. So without further ado, let's take it away.
to hear that, but it is true. And one of the uglier aspects about this, honestly, is how healthcare systems around the world, all of which have problems. No healthcare system in the world does not have zero problems. But the lies that occur here about healthcare systems around the world. I was in the UK during the debate on the Affordable Care Act, and I talked to conservative members of Parliament who were out about the lies that we're hearing about the British healthcare system and its similar regards. So we're delighted to have a panel here to give us maybe a little bit of a glimpse into what's going on around the rest of the world. Let's begin with Dr. Danielle Raza, who is assistant professor and physician at the University of Toronto. Doctor, has anyone beaten down your doors in the middle of the night lately and forced you to go to work?
I couldn't believe my ears when I heard that from yeah. I think what the American people need to know about healthcare in Canada is that access to care is not based on your ability to pay. It's not based on your bank account balance. It's based on your medical needs. And the way that we operationalize that is through a comprehensive focus plan for and hospital services. It's a plan that has no copay.
I want to say that again. Somebody walks into your office. How much do they have to pay?
I'm a primary care physician. If when a patient comes to see me, they check in at our reception. They show our receptionist their healthcare card, their card for a single care plan. I call them in. I see them or whatever brings them in and check up on their diabetes or prenatal care. And they go home. There are no copays when they check in, and when they go home, you don't have to worry about deductibles or complicated. In fact, medical bankruptcy are unheard of in Canada because we have this comprehensive healthcare plan.
Family has a baby, no cost. Somebody diagnosed with cancer, no cost.
Might have to pay for it.
Might have to pay for it. But everybody from Canada is running across the border to get care in the United States. True?
There are retired Canadians who will spend Canadian winters vacationing in Florida, and actually that's most of the time where Canadians are accessing U.S. care. Besides this, it happens so uncommonly and so rarely that it's difficult to measure. And actually, the best research paper that's looked at this problem, it's titled "Phantoms in the Snow."
All right, let's go for a moment to, let's jump to Dr. Mitali Kakad. Is that close to being right? And Dr. Kakad comes from a country which has recently received a lot of attention. She's from Norway. But I don't want to get President Trump excited. She does not plan to move to the United States, I don't think. Dr. Kakad, tell us about the Norwegian healthcare system.
Sure. President Trump used to be so lucky. What I should say is that the Norwegian health service is based on the fundamental premise that all residents in Norway should have access to affordable, high-quality care. And that's irrespective of who you are, what you earn, and where you live in our country. The other thing I should say is that there is cross-party support for universal healthcare coverage. No politician worth their salt in Norway would treat it that way.
So somebody decided to run for parliament and said, we're going to junk our system in Norway or in Canada, and we're going to go to the American healthcare system. Would that person get many votes?
It would never happen.
All right, this is an important point to make, because I think in Canada for a number of years, you had a prime minister who was a pretty conservative guy, right? Wasn't, liberal, wasn't progressive, wasn't social democratic, conservative. Does anybody talk about junking the Canadian healthcare system and moving to an American system?
No, it's the same thing in Canada. There's cross-party support. No one Canadian healthcare system is held up to such high esteem that years ago when one of our national TV networks held a poll on the greatest Canadians, the person who won was a fellow named Tommy Douglas, who was actually the founder of single-payer healthcare in Canada. And I also just want to add, it's not just out of altruism. Single-payer healthcare is much more cost-effective than the system here in the U.S. And that's true regardless how you measure it. So, for example, in the U.S., America spends 70% of its gross domestic product on healthcare. In Canada, it's 10%. If you look at it per person or per capita spending, in the U.S. it's around $9,800, and in Canada it's $4,600. And it's much less bureaucratic than this here for both patients and providers.
Well, that raises an issue. Let me go to Dr. Kakon again. You're a practicing physician.
I'm a public health physician, but I have been a
You heard perhaps earlier some of the concerns that American medical professionals have in spending half their life arguing with the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Is that a problem that exists in Norway?
In Norway, there are no, I think predictability for both providers and patients is a great benefit of a single payer system. Patients know where they have to go to in terms of accessing care. Everyone has a GP that is their first point of contact into the health
Can
system.
they choose any doctor they want?
They can. So you are often assigned to a GP that's near you, but if you don't like your GP, you're well within your rights to move. And choice is a fundamental tenet of the Norwegian health system. So if you're referred by your GP to a specialist, then you have a right to choose where your referral is sent and where your treatment needed takes place. So having a single payer system doesn't mean that you have an inflexible system where the patient's choice or preferences isn't taken.
Okay. Jill, you are not a physician, right?
Absolutely not.
You're just a plain old American who spent some years in France.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your experience in France and maybe contrast that with what you're going through right now in the United States.
Yeah, so I moved to France when I was 22 years old. I was working there, and as a legal resident in France, I was automatically covered under their national healthcare system. The way it was paid for was the same way we pay for Social Security and Medicare here in the U.S. It was deducted from my monthly paycheck. Then I went back to school. The year I was a student in France, I paid a total of a little more than 200 euros for an entire year's worth of coverage. And then I had a brief period of unemployment and I remained covered. So no matter what my status was as a legal citizen, I was guaranteed care in France. I recently moved back to the U.S. 2 months ago, and I had to go about purchasing insurance through the Obamacare healthcare exchanges. And I think as a patient, once we talked a lot about the cost, and what I've noticed is that there's a financial cost, but there's also a high emotional cost in the American system. I spent many frantic hours consulting, documentation, bombarded by the jargon of copays, deductibles, premiums, and your health is extremely important. You don't want to make any choice that puts your health at risk, but at the same time, it's very difficult to understand the system. So when I came back to the U.S., I eventually made the choice to go with a catastrophic healthcare plan because I am young and in pretty good health. So what I pay for that is a little bit more than $100 a month in premiums. However, I have a $7,000 deductible that I have to meet before any of my care would be covered. So it's almost like not really being insured because I would have to front those costs. And I did have a kind of a sad, ironic chuckle to myself when I realized that what I paid for 1 month in a premium here was equivalent to what I paid for nearly 6 months of coverage when I was a student in France. And when I was in France, everything was affordable and most of my costs were reimbursed.
Jill, you raised the issue, which we don't talk about enough, about the emotional costs associated with healthcare. About the millions of people today who are scared to death if they get ill, what it would mean to their families, the possibility of bankruptcy. Now, for our Canadian and Norwegian friends, tell me what it means in your countries that every person in that country does not have to worry about, they got to worry about staying well, but they don't have to worry about the financial cost associated with illness. It's bad enough when you get a diagnosis. That's not good. You got to focus on that. In this country, you got to focus on that. Then you got to focus about how you're going to pay the bill and what it means to your family. What does that mean, Dr. Khan?
Well, I quite agree. I think in Norway we believe that if you are sick or you think you're being sick, that in of itself is stressful enough. The health system should not be, as you said, contributing to furthering that stress. In Norway, some of the things you don't have to worry about when you're trying to access healthcare, obviously we talked about catastrophic costs. You don't have to worry about that. We do have co-pays, but there is a ceiling on those co-pays every year. So once you reach that ceiling of about $300, care is free for the rest of the year. You don't have to worry about the quality.
Excuse me, your co-pay is $300.
No, well, the co-pay varies. The co-pay only applies to outpatient services and some investigations and drugs. If you're acutely unwell, admitted to hospital, inpatient care, that's free. But once if the total of your co-pays in the space of a year reaches $300, after that all care is free for the rest of that year. So people don't have to worry about the cost of care. What I'd like to say is they don't have to worry about the quality of care, because often there's an idea that publicly sponsored healthcare is somehow second-rate healthcare. We spend a little more on healthcare per capita than Canada. We spend about 2/3 of what the US spends per capita, but we have better health outcomes.
Well, let me ask this. There are some people, some critics of single pay will say, okay, it's true they spend less in Canada, they spend less in Norway. It's true that all people are covered. Anybody can walk into the doctor's office and not have to worry about money. That's fine. But the quality is not as good as it is in the United States. That's what some would argue. What's your response?
I don't need to offer my opinion on this because the evidence actually bears this out. There's lots of different ingredients that go into living a long and healthy life, but of course access to healthcare is one of them. In Canada, our life expectancy is about 82 years, which is 2 years longer than in the US. We have lower rates of diabetes, lower rates of chronic kidney disease, better maternal care, and higher cancer survival rates. So it's not true that having a single payer system means you're going to have a low quality system. In fact, we heard it from Dr. Berwick earlier in his experience with Medicaid. When you have a single payer system, it's easier to also collect data, to understand where the pain points are in your system, and then actually intervene to try and make things better.
Dr. Kakana, what's the quality of the Norwegian?
We're up there with the best, and any comparative healthcare survey will show you this. The Commonwealth Fund publishes a report every year where the Norwegian health system performs extremely well and far better than the US and Canada.
As physicians,
I just had to get that in there.
As physicians, what does it mean that when you consider the therapies that you need for your patients, that you don't have to worry about the financial capability of those patients to pay? Does that make a difference?
Of course it does. At the end of the day, the types of therapies that you receive should be based on your medical needs and not on your willingness to pay.
I want to concur to that. Actually, I'm very proud as a Canadian physician to be working in a single care system, but I also don't want to paint the those because we're struggling with healthcare challenges as well. Our single payer plan covers things like hospital and physician care, but one of the things it doesn't cover yet is outpatient prescription drugs. And actually, I'm part of this organization called Canadian Doctors for Medicare in Canada that are campaigning to expand our single payer plan to include things like prescription drugs. And actually, that's one of the reasons why the Norwegian system performs better than ours, because outpatient prescription drugs are included in their plan and they're not yet.
Is that a free outpatient prescription drugs?
Know that they're part of the co-pay system. Drugs on our national formulary, you'll pay about 40% of the cost as a patient. But as I said, once you reach a threshold, they will be free.
Okay, I think we have a video question. Let's do it.
Hey, this is Amber. question is, has other countries all have common
Okay, great question, Amanda. Short, to the point, good question. In the United States, we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. A number of years ago, when I was in the House, I took people from St. Albans, Vermont, across the Canadian border to buy medicine that was far, far cheaper in Montreal than it was in Vermont. Why is it? Tell me about the cost. Actually, Canada has the second highest prices in the world, I think. But let's start with Norway. Why is prescription drugs less expensive in Norway than we go to Canada? What do you guys do?
Well, one of the aspects I want to raise here is that as a single payer, you represent the entire market. That gives you a lot of purchasing power and ability to negotiate down prices with drug companies.
So the key word there is negotiate, right?
Negotiate.
All right. So the drug companies in Norway cannot charge any price they want. And that's a negative. She's shaking her head. All right. Canada.
So, we have this government agency called the Patent Medicine Review Board, and they set the price for new drugs that come on the market. And the way they do it is they take the average of 7 other industrialized countries that are comparable to Canada, and they use the price of this new drug, the average of it in these 7 countries, to set the maximum that drug company can charge for that medication in Canada. So that's how we set the ceiling. As I mentioned before, this is actually something that we need to do better in Canada. Prescription drugs are one of the things that aren't covered by our single-payer plan. Actually, we've identified through rigorous research that the best way to bring down costs are to bring it under single-payer, to do things like Norway and what other countries like New Zealand and the UK do, bulk buy and then make sure that drug manufacturers are bidding against each other to give us the most value for our money. And then also pay for medications that work. Use science and evidence-based medicine to decide what medications are worth paying for and which ones are on the market because there's a new marketing gimmick or there's some new trick on an old drug that the drug companies have put on to try and add their profit margin.
Okay, before we get to our audience questionnaire, let us be honest and acknowledge that every country in the world has its share of problems. All right, what are the major problems that exist in the Canadian system right now?
So I identified one, I think, prescription drugs. The other thing that we're very good at in Canada is we're very good at triage. So when a patient's sick, they get care immediately. And it's not a matter of waiting for weeks or months. It's a matter of waiting hours or days for the sickest patients. But one thing that is true is we need to get better at our elective ways. So things like hip and knee replacements, things like cataract surgeries. But because we have a single payer system, because we're able to collect data, when we tackle these problems, we're able to use it in a data-driven way. And that's actually that's the approach that we're taking right now to drive down these wait lists for non-urgent medical issues.
Dr. Kukan, what are the weaknesses in the Norwegian system?
Well, I'll start with a weakness that I don't think has anything to do with the fact that we have a single payer system, and that is care coordination. In Norway, we have 3 levels of government. We have the parliament, the national level, we have the county level, and we have the municipal level. And each of these, or at least the national level and the county level, all both have responsibilities for healthcare. So this contributes to a fragmented landscape that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we're a single payer system. We too have some challenges around elective wait times, but they're not spectacular. And there was a lot of political focus on this in encouraging how do we reduce bottlenecks, how do we use information to improve the quality of our care processes to drive down time. The other thing I'll say is about choice, that people are also free to seek care at an institution with lower wait times, which allows patients to take charge of their condition.
Okay, let's go to our question.
Bersha from Now This here again. I just wanted to say I appreciate you addressing wait times specifically because I know that that is something that we hear from our audience and people all the time as being a major issue in other countries, and I know Grace will follow up on that. But I also want to reiterate for everybody that this is not the end of the conversation. The conversation will continue. Please reach out to us after the town hall and on social media. We want to keep hearing your questions and talking to you guys about this issue. But I'll hand it over to Grace. Hi. So countries like England and Canada have already shown successful free healthcare programs. Why does our government not learn and try to build programs like that?
You know, I am, thank you for that question. Your name is?
My name is Grace.
Grace. Thank you, Grace. I'm a member of the Senate Committee on Health Education, Labor and Pensions, which has jurisdiction, obviously, over health issues. And I remember that when we got into the debate over the Affordable Care Act, the issue of looking at the strengths and weaknesses of other countries never arose. No discussion. We tried to force it. But can you imagine when you pay twice as much per capita as any other country, that the first question you might ask is, okay, why do they do what they do in Norway or Canada or the UK? What are the advantages, the strengths of each one of these systems? What can we learn from them? That question never arose. And the reason it did not arise, the reason this is the first town meeting ever held on the Capitol on single payer, is, as I mentioned earlier, the power of insurance companies and pharmaceutical industry. These guys have unlimited, and I underline it, unlimited sums of money to spend in the political process in order to make sure that they make billions and billions of dollars every single year in profit. That is the answer to your question, pure and simple. So we are not debating healthcare. What we are looking at is incredible power from entities that have unlimited resources who want to continue this dysfunctional system so long as they can make very, very large profits and allow their CEOs to make, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars a year. So thank you very much, Grace, for that question. What do the people in your countries think about the American system, where so many of our people are uninsured, or as Jill indicated a moment ago, underinsured? Yes, what is it? 7,000 of them?
Yes.
I mean, if you told somebody in Norway that they'd have to spend $7,000 out of their own pocket before they can get health care, what would they think?
You were joking, I think, probably. I think it is, as I said at the start, the value, the set of values that our healthcare system is based on is pretty much reflected throughout the whole of Norwegian society. The idea of being in a situation where people could be subject to catastrophic healthcare bills is just so far out of the reach of most Norwegians' consciousness.
So it's something that would be unthinkable in many ways.
It's the unthinkable. It is a firmly ingrained part of our society.
So we don't have to imagine this. We are just across the border, and we have friends and family who live right here in the U.S. I just got to D.C. yesterday, and I'm actually staying with my aunt who lives just outside of Washington, D.C., and she drove me to the auditorium tonight. And on the way, guess what we were talking about? We were talking about the struggles that she's having, she's being a healthcare provider. You know, she wants to change her doctor, but it's not covered by an insurance plan. She's going to have to find a new plan with new co-pays and deductibles. So as Canadians with friends and family here in the U.S., we hear it all the time, and you know, it's a shock.
Jill?
Yeah, so I actually asked French people this because I was really interested in their perspective. Last summer, actually, my dad, who kind of has insurance the way it's designed to work in the U.S., his employer helps him pay for it. He works for a pretty good company, a big company that helps provide insurance for their employees. However, in recent years, even good insurance in America has somehow become worse. So when he had to have emergency surgery last summer, he had to meet a pretty big deductible, which was around $6,000. And I told this to my friends in France, and they were like, doesn't he have insurance? It was like she was saying, it literally does not compute. They kind of become like a broken robot. They don't understand what you're saying to them. And so the reaction is one of utter disbelief. They can't comprehend a system where most of the costs, whether it's an emotional cost, financial costs, are borne by individuals and not the entire society. In France, when they talk about their system, they always use a French word, solidaire, which means solidarity. Their system is based on principles of solidarity, that the weakest person in France must be guaranteed care because otherwise the country cannot be strong and functioning.
Well, maybe on that note, we can wrap it up. And let me just pick up on Jill's point, because that's really what it is, that's what it's all about. Because the issue that we're discussing tonight is healthcare. But you know what? Other issues, well, how much does it cost to go to college in Norway? Doesn't cost anything, actually, okay. And Canada, it's inexpensive, but it doesn't. I guess, what, some provinces is virtually free?
Yeah, so for example, I actually studied for that in my
I mean, it really, you know, and by the way, and the reason we're doing this program tonight is you don't see this stuff. I think Anna made that point before. It ain't going to be on CBS, it ain't going to be on NBC. And what astounds me is that we already have a pretty good majority of the American people who believe in universal health care, believe that it is the government's responsibility to make sure that everybody has health care is the right. And we've reached that stage with media not talking about the issue at all. So my strong belief, you know, is that most Americans do not know that in virtually every other country on earth, not only is healthcare considered a right with limited out-of-pocket or no out-of-pocket expenses, but the same thing in many cases applies to higher education or to child care. So I think the issue maybe we can conclude on is what Jill just said, and that is whether we choose to live in a nation which has massive levels of income and wealth inequality, where the very, very wealthy are doing phenomenally well while the middle class is struggling and 40 million people live in poverty, or whether or not we try to create a government and a society which works for all of us, which understands that all of us suffer when one child in this country goes without health care. So, that is the issue, and that is our struggle, and I absolutely believe that the momentum is with us. Nobody believes that we should be throwing tens of millions of people off of health insurance. What people believe is that all of us should be guaranteed health care. We have the momentum, but we're not going to win this fight unless all of us are actively involved, unless we stand up, unless we fight back, unless we make sure that every American recognizes that health care is a right, not a privilege. Thank you all very much.
Jesus. Oh, there's one. forgot.